Space Committee meeting. We will call this meeting to order at 7:02, and could we please rise and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for coming this evening and enjoying this beautiful, almost summer day. Even before we begin, I want to congratulate the Recreation Committee and the Recreation Department for a successful Island Fest that we had this past weekend. And it was certainly well attended and, as always, well prepared and organized. So it was a great event for our community. I will call the roll. And so, Urbani.
Present.
Weeks.
Present.
Geist.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Loveday.
Here.
Shelton. Robinson. And Mr. Bloetscher.
Present.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? I do want to, before we have that, I want a point of clarification. At our last meeting, we made a motion and we approved the placement of the 3 benches that we have procured, Mr. Bloetscher and I, that are probably still in your in your trailer behind your home. But it was a question of, we agreed that we were also going to have a pad underneath these as we place them. What we didn't do is that, since we only have 3, we didn't identify exactly where we want to put them. So I guess if we can get that as a point of clarification and at least get that on record, number one. The second element that I think was missing was that we didn't authorize or allocate any kind of funds for the pad, since we had. So I don't know if we need a special motion on that, and maybe perhaps we can keep that and we can make that up to a certain point or not. So any question about that before we make any kind of addition or deletion?
Bill?
Yes.
There's a point here under the action items from the minutes from May 7th.
Yes.
Says with concrete pads.
Yes.
But,
Right.
But you're asking for price?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, okay, if we didn't, between our last meeting and now, we have not gone out like for bids or, the question here is, maybe Mr. Bloetscher may give us a clarification. Is that within our discretionary budget? We have monies available for the placement of the benches, and we didn't specifically identify the pad, but it's in our budget. So do we need to, can we say up to a certain amount, or?
I'd recommend up to a certain amount. When we look at the funds will come certainly not from land acquisition, but from maintenance.
Yes.
I think it might be a bit of a stretch to call that maintenance, but it certainly is something that's part and parcel of use and maintaining use of the open space. So I would propose that we have a motion for up to a sum certain, and I can run that by John Keim, see what he thinks, and Derek Thiel, and I don't think that it should be too much of an expense, but it's certainly something we would want to make the board aware of in our minutes.
And a recommendation to the board. Right?
Correct.
Okay, so we will keep the action item where it says placement of benches at trailhead designations. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Ms. Weeks. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Geist. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the approval of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good. Our next order of business are the approval of the May 7th meeting minutes. And again, I want to thank Roberta Urbani for doing a great job in Mr. Geist's absence in doing the minutes and captured quite a few of our discussion items. So if you would take a minute or two, I did conserve paper and it's front and back. So if you want to take a look at the minutes, I believe you all received those at one point electronically. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our May 7th, 2024 meeting?
Also move.
Okay, moved by Ms. Phillips. Second by Ms. Weeks. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the May 7th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good, thank you. Okay, we have no presentations that we are aware of. No presentations today. Which brings us to our action items. And the first item that we have is the placement of benches at trailhead designations. And again, at our last meeting, we did identify, as you read in the minutes, or if you saw the meeting, that we have 3 benches that we have identified that we would like them at the entrances to the trails that we have. And again, we have 3 trails, and that would go also with like concrete pads underneath the benches. So the benches we already have. It's a question of A, where do we want to place them? And secondly, procuring a contractor or whomever, however we do that to, to place them under the benches. So do we have any pleasure or any ideas of the board, where they want to put them or how they want to put them, or do we have that in our mind that like where we were going to put them?
I would recommend consideration of a bench at the Ferry Gauge Trail, perhaps on the either end of it, or even in the center where we have the swale. Number one. Number two, I would suggest consideration of a bench at the Meridian Woods Trail where it comes to a head at East River. I don't believe there are a lot of benches, certainly not for public use, along East River in that area. The third area would be in the wildlife sanctuary overlooking the canal that is north of Horsemill. And a fourth area perhaps would be a similar placement on Meridian just north of the bicycle pedestrian bridge that goes over the canal, south of Ferry. Between Ferry and the canal there is an area that is just off the northern edge of the bicycle pedestrian path.
Trying to visualize that.
It's just on the northeast side of the road.
That's correct.
The one where one of the signs.
Remember where the
Place.
bridges were, the
Yeah.
segments?
Oh, okay, yes.
It would be across the street from that. There is an area there that has a it's a nice overlook, actually. And finally, I would also suggest consideration of a bench somewhere along the new bicycle path that connects Grow with the Gibraltar Bay Wildlife Unit. Someplace perhaps where you'd be able to enjoy that, although I do note that there is an area for a Boy Scout encampment close to in a wildlife viewing area. But if you could squeeze in something for viewing of the airplanes landing and taking off, that might be worthwhile as well.
Cool.
But those are 5 ideas that I came up with that are just suggestions. But I would like to get those benches off that trailer.
Yes, I understand. Well, we have 3 benches, and you recommended 5 places. So, are you suggesting that we procure 2 more benches?
No, I'm suggesting that we all consider this, and whatever everybody else says, there might be another, 10 ideas for placement out
I'm
there. I just want them off my trailer.
Okay, we're gonna get them. Any other ideas or any thoughts? Yes.
Will all the benches be either at the beginning or the end of a trail? Is that what we're thinking?
Well, at our last, and Mr. Bloetscher, you weren't at our last meeting, one of our discussions that we had is that we did not want to put them in the woods. Am I correct in that?
Yes,
In our discussion, because it's a question of, I think Ms. Weeks.
Yeah, we
mention,
did.
Like, okay, if people are gonna start off and they wanna have a drink of water, or they're eating something, then you'll have a receptacle to throw the trash away, and then, you know, a place to sit, and then you could go on your merry way on the trail. What we wanna try to discourage people from obviously bringing any kind of, you know, things that would end up as waste or that into the trail. Although, on the wildlife sanctuary trail, the garden club has a bench to one of its former presidents, I believe, or you know, founders, in the woods at that point. So
in the wildlife sanctuary?
yeah, in the wildlife sanctuary. So
I just wanted to, as I have become more disabled in my old age, one of the reasons I don't do the trails is that I couldn't walk them completely. I'd need a place to sit.
Sure.
And, you know, and I think for those of us seniors and, you know, have some issues, you know, I understand why they shouldn't be there, but in some ways it'd be really nice.
no, I hear you.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we talked about was benches further in the woods should be made out of natural material
Yes.
in part of the woods.
And
So these are more commercial type benches,
Yes.
and you're gonna have a cement pad, and you don't wanna do all that in the middle of the woods. So,
Correct.
so the Boy Scout and the longer trails with places to sit with you know, woods made benches can be an option. But on the trail heads, more of the, you know, purchased or, you know, commercialized benches with the pads for the, I would suggest the long trailheads, right? So the East River, Meridian Woods trailhead would be a vote. Ferry's pretty long, so that one.
Right.
And then the third one at one of the overlook positions. So you got two at, you know, one at long trails and then one for gazing on an overlook. So.
You know, TNT did a nice job in the past of creating, just out of logs, you know, huge logs, flattening them out and making some benches
Right.
along the way. You know, because to get these very massive and heavy benches and a concrete pad on the interior would be pretty difficult, probably real expensive and time consuming anyway, so.
Well, I think, yeah, like the original Meridian Trail, okay, and that loop that was there, I mean, there's all kinds of, like, you know, along the way, little pull-off areas that you could sit or you could go. I would say there's at least 5 that I'm aware of, if not more, in that area. So when we're looking at inside the trails, maybe that would be the route we want to go, and we can always contract TNT, and, you know, the trees are already there, if they're downed, okay, it's just a question of notching them and putting them together like that, and so we could certainly look at that. And we
Right.
can look at that in all of our trails, okay, for the interior portions. So any other ideas in terms of like the trailheads? I mean, we can go down the list of Mr. Bloetscher's list here and maybe look, you know, ferry gauge for sure.
I'm also would like to see one on the ferry gate or at one of the entrances for the ferry gauge trail and the East River entrance of Meridian trails, because especially up and down East River, biking up there, there's nowhere to like sit down and just take a break. So I feel like if people are already out and they stop there to take a break, it might bring some interest to that trail.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
That and the longer trails are typically, you know, somewhere where you would meet at. Like if you were doing Meridian, you would probably meet at the Meridian Elementary. If you wanted to enter off East River, then you would meet at, you know, the bench, and the same with Ferry. So,
Right.
so the overlook is
I like the
is
overlook.
question.
That wasn't something that crossed my mind, but yeah.
So the overlook, what, you suggested two of them? One was at down by Horsemeal and the other one was closer to Ferry?
If you look at the open space, there is the trail from Horsemeal that generally runs along the unimproved portion of Thoroughfare. Second one I had considered or asked for consideration be along the new bike path that leads from open space at Meridian Woods to the Gibraltar Bay.
Just down the street here.
Correct. Correct. It parallels East River. It's just on the, where the maintenance road is and was and is now part of the bike path. In terms of looking at where Enzo is, there's already a bench across Meridian that's on the bike path, so I don't see where that would help. And I believe he's considering putting in a bench at the canal as part of an overlook there, so that was something that would be duplicative. But Meridian Woods and Ferry, and I think either the Wildlife Sanctuary or Meridian, north of the bridge for bicycle pedestrian traffic, just north of the canal.
Right.
So you overlook the canal or you overlook the airport? Is that your
Yes.
overlook suggestions?
Yes.
I would say the canal because you already have a observation deck for the airport.
Right. And not only that, I don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that's even, that's bicycle pedestrian, but it's technically not open space.
Correct.
Right.
So
It might
it's
be a
always,
good.
it's always nice to make a decision, say, oh yeah, we want to put this here, and then, it's
It might be a
obviously
good
somebody
spot
else's.
for the bike path or,
Right,
someone
exactly.
who wants to put a bench somewhere on the island to go at that corner. That's
Good.
it's a good spot for a bench, but
Right.
I don't think it falls on us.
Well, what's your pleasure here? You have any other ideas on the placement? And then we'll come up with the number. Are we can do it this way. Are we all in agreement that the Ferry Gauge Trail needs a bench? Are we all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. The Meridian Woods from East River
Yes.
entrance, there's one.
Yeah.
Because there is a bench that's further down, as you know, like it's closer to Meridian School, like right across from where there's the juncture,
Right.
like you'd cross, so there is a bench there. And there will be some new signs put up in that area, like to identify Meridian Woods, so people know where they're going, and that's coming. Any further discussion about the Meridian, on Meridian with the overlooking the canal? That's our open space.
Yeah, and just on the north
On
side.
the north side,
Kind of like
there's
a
like two
northeast
houses
side.
from
Yeah.
Ferry Road.
A small little, almost
Yeah,
triangular
but there,
spot
but
there.
that would be a good, because the bicycle bridge is still there. I mean, it's new.
Right.
Right.
It is close to the bike path and
Right.
that, so people will be going by there or even walking by there and stuff
I
like that.
can live with those three.
So-
Anybody else?
Yeah, because the Wildlife Sanctuary does have the bench there,
Right, it does.
and grow to GBU,
Is
I
not
think-
ours.
right?
Right.
And there's benches, there's quite a few benches in the GBU.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
In-
So that's, okay, so we'll come to that agreement. I'll get a motion on that in a minute. But now it's a question of, any further discussion on that?
You said the Meridian Woods on the east end of it?
Yes.
Okay, and besides the one about.
Ferry Gauge Trail,
The
at
ferry-
off of Ferry.
All right, so it's going to be on the ferry end of it.
Yep.
Okay.
East River for the Meridian Woods, and then Meridian, which will be
Yeah, it's called Bike Path Park.
Bike Path Park. Is that what it is? Okay. Yes.
That's what's
Yeah, I don't doubt, but that'll be the three. So we'll look at that. The second piece is if we're going to have pads, it's a question of and we have three benches that we're putting in with pads. It's a question of our recommendation would be those 3 places to place them, but it's also a question of, like, up to how much money do we want to spend in terms of the pads? I mean, I don't have a number on the top of my head, but
They'll do it for $2,000 or less, I would think.
don't you think?
Yeah.
Or something we should coordinate with the DPS, because
Yes, right.
they probably have somebody they work with on.
Absolutely. That's why,
What I would propose would be to contact John Keim and Derek Thiel. I can talk with them on Thursday and find out what their thoughts are. It might be something we can do in-house, cheaper than something
right.
we could do with the bidding process and all that, although it is less than the $5,000.
I was going to say, we don't need 3 bids because we're not exceeding $5,000.
No, and I think if we do it with John Keim and the group there, they would be able to do something for us that would make sense. They did a lot of the spreading of the chips, so I think they have a good feel for the area that would make sense.
Yes.
And I trust John's judgment. I don't think we have to tell him exactly where we want them, but let him know where generally we would like to have them placed. And John has a good eye for that, so I think that'd be a logical place to start with both John and with Derek and
I agree.
see what they say.
So, can
I like Teresa's idea of up to, $2,000, not to exceed
Not to
$2,000.
Right. So I need a motion in regards to the placement of the benches and the amount that we would like to expend.
I move that we place a concrete bench at the southern terminus of the Ferry Gauge Trail, that is at the Ferry Road trailhead, number 1. Number 2, that we have a bench placed on the northeast corner of the what's known as Bike Path Park open space, comprising the northeast corner of the bicycle pedestrian bridge up to the first house there that is designated and owned as open space. That would be number 2. And then I'm open for any other suggestions. We're looking at Meridian Woods, I think at East River would be the most logical.
Third. Right.
And those would be the 3. At a total cost not to exceed $2,000 for the placement of concrete pads anchoring the benches to the concrete.
Yep. Good.
Probably get precast pads too, I would think.
Right.
Actually, you got the casting place right down Fort Street, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bonney. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the placement of the benches and with the amount not to exceed $2,000, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Good. The motion passed. Very good. Thank you. Awesome. Next action item was a question of, I know I can turn this over to Bert in terms of the guide to our natural areas, and I must commend her for her good work on putting together this and revising the document and updating it as we have, because these are coveted publications, okay, as we know. It was a question of the amount we were talking about, so we should, at least we can solidify that. So if you want to, I can turn it over to you and you can give us an update and then we can have a motion.
Okay, so I got quotes from Allegra Printing, who printed them in 2019 and 2015. So they have documents, they have pages that they can insert if we haven't, because there's a few places where we don't have any changes, so they can just pop those in, which is helpful. So I got quotes for 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000. Do you want the numbers?
Yes, please.
So 1,000 would be a total of $3,746.25, But then there would be that, I think that doesn't include tax. Although I'm not sure if we as a municipality, do we pay tax? I think the Conservancy doesn't.
The township as a governmental entity is exempt from paying sales tax on some matters. This is not strictly for a township purchase. It is by this committee, but I think that we should be able to receive a tax break on that. If not, then it's just part and parcel of doing business, cost doing business. But I'm hoping that we could, not to cheat the governor out of her due, but we have limited resources.
But we're talking about splitting the costs?
Right. Well, yeah, Paul Glure, the chair of the Grosse Nature and Land Conservancy Board, has to go before the board to talk about this expenditure. His vision is that we would split 50-50.
Right.
And so we're thinking about printing 3,000 so that each group gets 1,500. And so for 3,000, that would be a total of $5,848.49.
Looking
Give or
at
take.
maybe at least our half.
Right.
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 Good.
So that's where we're at. So, with each increment of 1,000, the price goes down per
unit.
each one.
Right.
What was the price you said for 1,000? I think that's the first one you mentioned.
Right. 3,746 and 25 cents.
Thank
So
you.
Definitely, we could round that off to 37.50.
Right. Or 58.48. Any further discussion or any questions?
Do we remember how many we purchased the last time these were printed?
I think it was 3,000.
No.
So
That
how
was like
off-
2019 or something like that?
2019.
Yeah. And so it's now been
Go
updated.
through them fairly quick then.
Yeah, we do. Well, keep in mind, we're also, we send a copy to new residents, okay, as part of our welcome little package. At Island Fest, I know we were, you would distribute them. They were placed in the post office, they're placed at Kroger, there's other places that, so people can access it. And
So we should get at least 3,000.
I said 3,000, yeah, I would think. So is there a motion to, do we know how close we are to completion?
We're very close.
Yeah.
I ran into Peter at Island Fest and Jane Feigel, she's on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And so apparently there's some things on the map of the bike paths that need to be changed. There's a little squiggly line on East River that goes east or west off of the houses and then behind some houses and ends at Stout, and that doesn't really exist anymore. So that needs to come off. And then I do have the one from Grow to the GBU.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think so I'm waiting to hear from Jane to find out,
Right. But we're close. We're very close.
We're close, yeah, there's just
So,
a couple of things.
When it is completed, so do I have a motion to approve the purchase of 3,000 Guide to the Natural Areas of Grosse for splitting the cost, potentially, of 58.48.49, okay? And you're saying plus tax?
Well,
But we have to determine whether or not that we're going to have to pay tax.
If I can interrupt for just a second and revisit that, is there any thought, and I apologize for making it so late in the game, but your conversation about the bicycle pedestrian has, at least in my mind, there's a question as to whether or not we could do a separate page for bicycle pedestrian and split this three ways. Recognizing that they have paths and things like that.
no, I mean, we talk about it, and the bike paths they're called out on the legend of the map. If you want to send me a couple sentences, I can squeeze it in somewhere.
What I am, now that we have Island Fest behind us and we have the issue of the Macomb Street property apparently behind us. I am looking at being able to have that meeting that we've been trying to do for the last several months. And I would like to have that in 2 or 3 weeks. Is that something that's doable, Bert, or does that put kind of a crimp on what your plans are? Is time critical, or can we maybe look at some input from them, and not just financially, but also for the paths?
Well, I am getting input from them on the paths for the map.
Are you saying that the map, the bike paths aren't on a map? Bert's saying they are.
They are.
They are, but, you know, I need to make sure that they're correct. You know, I'm not sure what all we want to say. I mean, what all they would want to say in the book.
And your point's well taken. However, I also, I appreciate the work of the bicycle pedestrian path, but it's also technically, does it fall under a natural area of GROSSE? And I would argue, maybe it doesn't. Okay, and I don't know what kind of publications they have done or that I'm aware of. I don't think. But again, I do know it's there, and we're also it's somewhat late in the game because we're already getting ready to go to press. I mean, we're trying to make a decision how many do we want, and it's a question of.
Well,
and I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we also have 6 months of letters that aren't issued.
Right. No, that need
Welcome
to
packets
get out. Right. Exactly.
That, aren't put out there because we have no flyers.
My only thought on that was that when we look at, and again, you could, and I appreciate the position that that's not part of, green, but I also look at it as whatever we can do to get people out to use these areas and to support them. And certainly you support them by using them, being aware of them. And then when the millages come out for BPAC and for Greenways open space, it's just an idea. I'm not committed to it. I'd be looking for a way to save some money. And I certainly apologize to Ms. Urbani for this rather. It's beyond the 11th hour when it comes up like this, Bert, and I did not intend for that to happen.
Yeah, I
but-
mean, I can look at, doing some editing in the cover and other places and figure out where,
Wanna put
a
it.
plug
Right.
for the bike paths.
My feeling is
And-
whatever
and
you
tying
want to
it
do
in.
They're
is.
on
Yeah.
the maps, right?
That can happen.
They are on the map. It's just a question of, there are certain bike trails now that are not functional as they were before. They're not in use, and so subsequently, she's trying to get an accurate depiction of that. But
I do know, I mean, that's right. The hiking trails have long been used by the more rugged bicyclists of the community for sure. So
Might I suggest that, what Carl's suggesting to be, I guess, tabled until the next publication, because by then, the path or the trail for the Iron Trail will be installed and constructed on the island here. And then maybe they can add something about our connection to the Iron Trail and such, and not
yeah,
complicate things at this time.
yeah, for sure. That's a big deal. The Iron Bell Trail.
right.
Thank you.
I mean,
Iron Belt Trail.
yeah, right.
Well, in addition to that, you can decide from a layout perspective, how much is coordinated in the how much of the bike paths and are outside of the connection to the nature areas, and then figure out how you have a full map of all the bike paths, and then maybe that's a supplement to the publication, or a separate supplement that gets put out in a welcome letter.
Right, in
It's not a
fact-
big deal to add, and you could do that in between time too, if you just wanted some, 1-page printout of of the trails, I could add that to the welcome letters until you get something more
Right.
formalized in the, in deciding how you want to tie it into this publication or its own publication.
There's another solution.
Wait,
Go ahead. Yeah, go
sorry.
ahead.
as I emailed to Bill, this is, somebody else is gonna do the next update, and they're probably gonna do it with AI, and it'll take them 2 hours or a day. You know, I've been doing it, like I said, this is a tech equivalent of a monk hand printing the Bible, because I've been doing it in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then transforming it to PDF to send it to the printer. So it's,
Right.
so the next one will be speedy, and it can be completely different, but
Right.
Sounds like it may have a different author too at some
yeah,
point,
yeah,
Bert.
maybe Zoe.
One quick thought on that might make it very simple. When we attend services at church, they have inserts in the bulletin. If BPAC wants to, and if Nature and Land Conservancy is on board, and I don't pretend this is just a one committee or one group, they want to put together some kind of an insert so that when we get into maybe 300 having been passed out because of the welcome letters, well, then the other 2,700, we just throw in an insert
Right.
the
with that.
Conservancy-
So that's not taking any
Right.
extra work for you, Bert, and I'm sensitive about the amount of time this takes.
Well, the Conservancy dragged me into the 21st century because they wanted QR codes on their, you know, on the John C. Jackson page and some of the other pages that they were involved in. And at first I said no, because we don't have QR codes for everything, but then I acquiesced. So already, you know, we're moving along.
In
So-
the century.
So the question is, and I heard Mr. Geis, you were talking about tabling.
Making any additional changes in relationship to the bike path,
Correct.
as suggested by trustee Bloetscher.
But you want to table our action item?
No,
No.
no.
No, I didn't think so, because I'm
No.
gonna make a motion that we purchase 3,000, and we split the cost when it goes to print, okay?
That's not what I said.
Okay, for $5,848.49.
And so moved.
Okay,
And there's nothing to table from Carl because he wasn't on the list, so he doesn't get to be
I'm-
tabled.
I know.
Somewhat figuratively, and
No
that is
respect.
discussion for
All right.
another time.
Any further discussion? So we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Okay, second,
Wait a
good.
Just move.
No, I moved, and she seconded.
She was helping him with the language.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the guide to natural areas of GROSSE and the expenditure for purchase of 3,000 copies at a price of $58.48.49, split with the GROSSE Nature and Land Conservancy, say aye.
Aye.
I'm a little uncomfortable with that exact number because it's not going to be the exact number.
Approximately.
Approximately.
Right, yeah.
Okay, we'll say approximately.
Approximate, yeah.
Okay. We'll recall the vote here. So we, all those in favor of the motion, okay, with the approximate number, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Any abstentions? Good.
You know,
Thank
Bert, with your QR codes,
you.
that's a bargain. Absolute bargain.
I know. Next, some discussion items quickly. Some summer work that we're going to be doing, and I know some of us are going to be going up to Michigan Tech, or some of us are going to be going, leaving the board here, and we certainly appreciate your good work and the time that you served on the board, Zoe. But a couple of things that I can just give you an update, and we can also have just quick discussion, is that we do know that we have ordered the open space signs that needed to be replaced. So thanks to Zoe and Bert and of the whole committee in terms of like going out and checking out the signs that are there, we at least identified like 5 major signs that we were able to replace that were in the biggest disrepair. Although there is an additional sign, so that's going to be a 6th sign on the woods across on, is that Cardinal, Voight? Okay, that there was only a small sign there, and that's a pretty sizable piece of open space, but we're going to place a sign with posts in the area off of Voight.
Would that be Marion?
That's Marion Park, and it'll be identified as Marion Park, so that'll be there. But the other signs will be, so those will be going on, and that'll be happening. Carl, I do know that I think perhaps, we sent our, the other smaller trail signs with the rules, and kind of like rules of the road that we talked about and we kind of hashed out here. I do know I sent that, shortly thereafter to Supervisor Budney and Derek Thiel. And I think you had a meeting. You want to talk a little bit about?
I was going to make that part of my
Well,
liaison.
we can do that. That's fine, yeah. Hold off on that then.
Let me back up a sec. On the signs that have been ordered, any estimation as to when they might be
I think
in?
they're nearing completion. They're going to be, like within a week or so. So we ordered them back in probably late April.
Okay, and where will they be delivered? Who will receive them?
To the DPS.
Okay.
DPS will receive them, and then we will. There'll be some installation. They will be doing the installation and replacement work, not the DPS.
They being the sign
The
company.
sign company. Yes.
Okay.
Is it Michigan Sign, My Signs? I think they out on Northline. Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do we know specifically, or have I totally forgotten which signs are being replaced? Which places? I mean, was that in the motion from a previous meeting?
It was
Okay.
but back in April, but I do think it was a question of, we were looking at, we needed a sign for the Meridian Woods closer to the, not only where we're gonna put a bench, but, it's now a place where people obviously now know. So there's gonna be a new sign that'll identify 183 acres, since we now added onto that property. And that was, that was finalized like in 2019. There are also, there's another sign that's going to be like at Centennial Farm. There's going to be one, excuse me, I think further down on the Meridian Woods area that's in pretty bad shape. Trying to think where.
Were any of them on Horse Mill being replaced?
Yes, I think the one on Horse Mill,
Because they-
right where we were talking about that other overlook that we're looking, on that.
Canal,
On
I think
the
it's by
canal.
by Canal Street.
Yeah, by Canal Street. So,
One from
and
89.
also the one right by the public service building,
Oh,
where
okay.
the police and fire is. That one is so worn, you can't, it's lucky you even.
One by the
even
police
says
and
open
fire
space.
department, where's that?
Right. So that's gonna be happening, okay?
Okay.
The other thing I would like to elicit, at least maybe a work day, is that I'd like the other signs that we have that are still in pretty decent shape. Maybe we can get a crew together and we can wash them or clean them up a little bit so that they are in, and Zoe I know did a good job when she did her PowerPoint and identifying all of the signs that we have. In the ones that, in various stages of disrepair, where, the ones that are really bad we're replacing, but if we can clean up the other ones, and I don't know if we necessarily need to paint them, but if we do, maybe that'll be something that we can attack this summer, so we have a couple of months here to do that. I do know, I talked to John Keim earlier, in that we're still looking, to get into the woods and do some wood chipping in certain areas. I mean, that's going to be happening. In the Meridian Woods, the Pullman Corporation is going to move forward, and I think we got approval on that, where they're going to refurbish that bridge that's over the ditch that's there, and so there's that possibility that's going to be happening. And again, when it's dry enough for that to happen, that'll go on.
Did John say he would get to the trail going to Centennial Farm?
Yes, okay, is it, yes. So that's the other, because I know we've talked about that. And there also needs to be the installation of a trail marker for that too.
Trail marker and some
And
culverts.
some, yeah. Yes, very much so. They are trying to do some ditching, I think, on that area too, back in there.
Yeah,
So-
he stopped in today. They're gonna access through, my property back into the woods.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe we should just tell them to start in a little early, go in the other way. Maybe we can convince them. So anything else? Yes.
So in the Ferry Island, Ferry Woods Trail, coming from down Gage and where it turns off, there's a culvert goes over a stream and it's getting washed out. So,
Oh, really? Yeah.
so it needs some attention there.
Okay, good. Let's make a note of that. Anything else in terms of work for this summer? Good. No sooner do we end one event, so any further discussion on the summer work, but just to give everybody an idea what's happening. No sooner do we end one spring dump the junk that was very successful, is that I think we need to look at a fall date, and we're trying to can't say that we're not trying, and again, I think we've been pretty successful, and it is one of our goals that we've certainly identified for 24, 25, that we would do 2 a year, and we've been doing 2 a year. So I do know we were looking at, there are certain, homecoming is September 27th, so for people to, at home or here, if you have to make that kind of arrangement, but that's a tough weekend. Pardon me. I also know that on the 12th of October, that's a weekend, the Grosse Education Foundation is having their major fundraiser that day. And that's going to be like a Halloween hootenanny, or they're going to Halloween party again to help raise funds in that regard. So those are tough weekends. Is there a time that may be good or bad for you all in the fall? Zoe, we don't expect you to come back from northern Michigan.
Certainly do. Certainly we do.
Get to work.
Question, the Rotary has contacted me about as much advance notice so that they can do a shredding event.
Again.
And the more notice they have, the easier it is for them to have a truck come in. John was talking about 6 months' notice. That certainly is not going to happen. But I'd also don't want to be competing with the Episcopal Church where we are doing dump the junk the same weekend.
Right.
And I don't know what the weekend,
Mandy, do we know when the
Yeah, it's the
rummage?
first weekend in October, and so it'll start about the middle of September, 2 weeks before at least. So it'll be the first weekend in
So the
October.
rummage sale is
The week of that 5th, then.
October 5th.
That's a Saturday.
Right, that's a Saturday.
so we'd be looking at the 19th of October or sometime earlier which would be late September.
Right.
I do understand, at least there is the information out there, that because of the installation of the turf at the high school, there's going to be, the schedule is such that Mr. Oakler is attempting to schedule all home games late in the season so that they have a chance to finish construction. I believe construction is a little lengthy, and we'll go into, if there's 11 games during the season, they're going to have half of them in the back half, and the front half are going to be all the away games. So if we look at that, not that homecoming, I mean, that's going to be a big thing, but I don't know that there's going to be a lot of impact there. So,
For years, I always told Mr. Oakler that I thought he was going to be scheduling homecoming away. Okay, but but no, but it's at least tentatively scheduled for September 27th. So is October 19th a bad time for you guys, or?
I think
Gonna be
October is just a month that
I don't know that
a
much
lot of
help,
people are, going away on the weekends and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm gonna be away that weekend, but.
Right,
what do we
And
say?
I'm not that much help, but I really wanted to go this
but
time.
no, I hear you.
What do we say was wrong with September? 28th or something?
28th, that's homecoming week, and I know I'm tied up on the 28th myself.
21st?
What's the 21st? Ray, what do you got going on the 21st?
Yeah, I'm-
That's the Jefferson Invitational?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so, yeah, this 21st and 28th, I've got,
Sooner?
14th is after the Labor Day weekend. The weekend after.
The 14th? Check your calendars, kids.
14th would be good.
September 14th?
I guess it'd be 2 weekends after.
Right.
yeah, it's not the week of, it's a week following Labor Day week.
Far away from the rummage sale, but I think there's no choice because of everything else going on.
Right. So shall we tentatively look for September 14th? I mean, I can, talk to the powers that be at the township and the DPS.
Just make sure there's no conflict
not-
with them.
No conflict?
I
You
mean,
got something going?
No, verify with
Yeah,
them that
right. Oh, I will.
So what's the concern with having it, I understand having it after the rummage sale, or before the rummage sale, so that you
Well,
can deliver stuff.
we were able to, okay. Although I will tell you, here's what we were able to do. We were able to work with the township and Janelle McNee to at least temporarily use, if we needed it, a storage in like one of the airport facilities. And so we had that option, and that was at least available, and we think that was very gracious for that to happen. Because I did talk to Reverend Sue with Cass Community Services, and she was going to come down that following, couldn't come on Monday, but it was that following Tuesday after the event, and was going to pick up whatever we had. But when we had this last dump the junk, people, we didn't have really good stuff for them to come and, to make it worth their while. So we basically said, okay, hey, look, sorry, but we were able to take some stuff that were, worthwhile or could be reused or resold to the St. James rummage sale. So that was a possibility. So.
Well, I mean, I feel like, going, even though it's, three weekends before, about 2 weekends before, right? Or 3 weekends before the St. James, that one of two things will happen. We either get more stuff that you could donate, and St. James might get better quality stuff. St. James might get better quality stuff as well.
Right. And they start collecting, St. James starts collecting their stuff early.
Yeah, I was, just trying to
know what I'm
think about
It'll
when.
probably be about that weekend that they start collecting,
I
actually.
think they would, I don't know, around the 19th probably.
Well, that's not bad.
Which isn't too bad. And you might be able to work a deal out with, a place for storage if the tents are up or,
Right. Or even in their garage area that they have.
in the garage area.
So that may
just
be a
store
possibility.
something if there's,
So can we tentatively look at September 14th? And again, it's tentative.
I think it's good to do it before rather than after the rummage sale.
Yeah, okay.
Well, particularly if they're collecting about the same time. What's the big deal?
Exactly. Okay. Well, I'll at least follow up and see what we can do for September 14th. Good. Our two Grosse High School students are not with us, but they were working on a social media presence for our committee. And I believe our last meeting, they talked about having some individuals or a team to help put something together so that we would have like a website or at least we would have a presence in social media, and how that's defined. Keep in mind, I think, and Mr. Bloetscher would probably say this too, is that, we are a township committee, And so a lot of times our information or how we disseminate our information, even though we are private individuals, we also have to be sensitive to the fact that we represent the township, and so we have to be somewhat careful in terms of how information gets out or how it's distributed, and to make sure that it's accurate, make sure that it's, that we're compliant. So, any further thing about that? So, we'll contact anybody who wants to get involved in that. You can even do that from afar.
I was gonna say, if depending on how they want to go about that website, I know HTML and CSS web programming.
Oh.
So if we're building it from scratch, I could help with that. And then if you guys are using some sort of website builder, I'm sure that'd be
Good,
pretty
awesome,
easy
good.
to figure out too.
So
Yeah,
even
that'd be
if you're a busy summer, that would be awesome.
And hey, it'd look good on my portfolio that I
Yeah.
build and published into their website. So
Absolutely.
either way.
And I know-
My thought on that, if I may, for just a second, Zoe, whatever you do, I'm going to give you a telephone number to write down. The communications director, if you will, is Brian Friel at the township. It's telephone number 676-4422. Extension 241. And he handles the township's webpage and all of that information. He is also the deputy clerk. So whatever we need to do, it'd be easy for you to run it by him.
Okay.
And
Spell checky too, he's great.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
so that way we're not running afoul of any of the
Yeah.
publication requirements and needs for the township, state of Michigan, and all those kinds of
Days,
things.
or
So
open
I would
meetings
suggest,
act.
and he's a very good, easy guy to work
Okay.
with.
Awesome.
You will like working with him, and you could even use him as a reference.
That'd be
Very
nice.
much
Yeah.
so. Yep.
And then also probably talking to Alicia and Kaitlyn about if they're also thinking like social media wise, definitely the platforms you use in your targeted audience. Like if you're gonna go, you want more youth involvement than maybe like Instagram, but then you would want to set that up in a way where it's attractive to the younger generation, where Facebook would be a more appropriate platform for
Careful.
I know, I was thinking of a way, how do I say that? But, and then to make that more appealing to a way.
Different
Different.
target
Different age
audience,
group.
different target
Different
audience,
demographics.
demographic. That's right. That's hilarious. Good. Yeah, anything else on that? Okay. So, under reports, school liaison team, so you have anything you want, besides you're happy that you're a high school graduate now?
Exactly, yeah.
Mr. Bloetscher, anything from the township?
Yes, two things. To follow up again, Zoe, with whatever you're going to do with the ladies from the high school, I would seriously and really, really heartily recommend that they talk with Brian as well before anything is put out there. We want to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and if I could count on you to do that, I'd appreciate it. All right. Second thing is, and I wasn't here for the last meeting, but the use regulations, God, what a great job everybody did on this. This is wonderful. I spoke with Derek Thiel and Supervisor Budney, as well as the head of community development, and I gave each of them a copy, but I was apparently late to the Bill Stevenson email because he'd already provided that. What they want to do is to put this into a township ordinance, into a proper format for township ordinance, and they are working on that. The community development works on all the ordinances for building and construction and those kinds of things, and this is certainly a land use that would fit well within their domain, and they are working on that and have an appreciation for all the good work that was done. So I expect to have something out by our next meeting, and Bill, I'll provide you with a proposal when I receive the same, and then
Thank you.
you can disseminate that.
Our next meeting's in September.
I know.
We may have it before then, right?
Wheels of government turn slowly.
No, well, unless you want to have a special meeting, we could do that. I think July 5th at your house, be all right?
The fact that we have to wait till ordinance is created to publish these signs, to
Well,
me, that's the slow-moving part.
Let me see now, we were deeded in what, July 1776? I think we've got by for 250 years, I think
Yeah,
another
right,
week
it's
or
amazing
two.
how, in some cases. Although I will tell you, if you really are civic-minded, you can go through all the township ordinances, and some of they do have some ordinances that are identified on our trail usage. So, and we have to also make sure that our trail usage are compliant with existing township ordinances. But again, I think I applaud, thank you, Mr. Bloetscher and Mr. Budney and Mr. Thiel for following up on that, and thank you all for helping to at least that discussion, putting those together, and we'll see what we can do. Good. Anything else, sir?
No, sir, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Phillips, anything from the Nature and Land Conservancy?
Yes, I do have a few things. Excuse me. The Dr. Bruce Jones Memorial Scholarship was awarded to Evangeline Daly at the May 23rd recognition event. Many thanks to Ms. Urbani and Madeline and the team for the scholarship and arranging so much of that with the school and with the winner. We've been working with, here's Ms. Bird Urbani on the final revisions of the natural area GROSSE booklet. And many thanks to Bert and Open Space for leading this effort, because it's something that the Conservancy obviously uses a great deal. There were 2 events for June, one of which is tonight, the Joy of Bird Feeding, which I was very sorry to miss. And this coming Sunday, the 9th, there's an event, Slithering. Snakes Need Friends Too.
Yes,
It's
they
at
do.
the Bird Sanctuary, which is the corner of Horse Mill and Thoroughfare, from 1 to 2:30 on Sunday. I hope I didn't say Saturday. On Sunday, this coming Sunday, from 1 to 2:30. Ugh.
Friends too.
And we have 2 events coming up on July 9th, Tuesday, July 9th. Native plants, why they're so important, is at the Resource Center on Macomb Street. And is there a time here? I don't see a time.
I don't see a time.
Oh, it's 6 o'clock. It's at night on Tuesday, July 9th, on native plants. Native plants. Which ought to be very informative for GROSSE and planting and flowers, all that we do this time of year. And Saturday, July 20th, wetlands are wonderful. At the nature area, or the GBU, so many names for that place. It's on East River Road, and it's from 1 to 2:30 p.m. on wetlands are wonderful, Saturday, July 20th, from 1 to 2:30. And we've been pretty busy.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Very good. Theresa, I know what the status of the welcome letters. I know that we're waiting for the nature guide to get published, and we'll be getting those out. But we do have a backlog, and that's a good thing and a bad thing, I guess. Okay. We'll try to get that out in a timely fashion. Anything else in terms of reports, or anybody else? This is the area time for the public comments. And we do not have any public comments. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, but before I do, I want to...
Okay, go ahead. I have a question for you.
I was going to thank you all for your good work and diligence throughout this year, and continue success in terms of what we're meeting our goals and doing, making our little corner of the world a little better place to live, which is really what it's all about. And again, we thank you very much. But Mr. Geis had a question.
Down at Daily Preserve, we had, I think, a tree issue potential there. Do you know, was there any status on
Not that
that?
I'm aware of.
Okay. I must have misunderstood.
Where? I'm trying to think.
Down off the south point, down, was it Coleman Brook Circle? There's large trees.
That one. It wasn't brought to my attention.
Okay, maybe
Is that open
oh,
space?
that may have been something with Land Conservancy.
Yeah, that's not open space.
Wait, the Coleman Circle?
Yeah. I'm sorry, that might be,
I
the
believe
Land Conservancy. I'm mistaken. My apologies.
that I did see an open space sign there when I went, but
I'd have to check. I mean, is it still there and causing a hazard or no?
I don't know. That's why I was asking.
Okay, no, it's the
Okay,
first time.
I'm mistaken, you're right.
Just to me.
I'm getting my two organizations.
Well, that's what
mixed
happens
up.
when you wear two hats, at least two hats in that
So,
regard.
Bill,
Yes.
what's the status of the daffodil?
Well, the status of the daffodils is that we are, at least there is a halt in terms of any more planting. And I know the cheery little signs that were put up, if they haven't already been removed, they will be removed. But I think there are other plants that are coming there. I did have a discussion with him, like right after our last meeting, and I said that, like, probably no more daffodils, but we need to, and I'm looking at July 9th, maybe we will elicit him to, or at least ask him to join us in finding out more about native plants and what might be suitable. But again, we're looking at a private partnership that would, a person that's willing to, donate 5,000 bulbs of various types that could be, throughout the island. The discussion that we last had, and again, we referred that to him too, was that there are other areas rather than in open space that that need beautification and that we can, you could utilize. Okay, so there may be that, and I haven't followed up on that since that discussion, but I will. And I know I'll be talking to him pretty soon because as the weather it dries out, we're going to be looking at that bridge refurbishing in Meridian Woods, and he's a part of that. So, but yeah. Anything else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved by Mr. Geis, second by Mr. Bloetscher. Meeting is ended at 8:08. 8:07, very good. Good, thank you.